This weekend's first alert weather days. We're on your side with when we can expect the winter weather to begin.
And we're talking about how you can squeeze in those last-minute preparations down to stay warm, plus how first responders are getting ready for potential impacts.
And hey, speaking of impacts, we're also going to talk about what impacts we could possibly see from tomorrow's event.
Live on your side, First Alert Weather Extra starts right now.
Well, as we prepare to see winter weather across our state, well, this is the view from Dallas earlier today as snow fell. Here it comes due to the same system that prompted winter storm warnings and advisories, not just for us, all across the southeast. And listen up, this is going to be quite a snow event. Arkansas, Tennessee, 6+ inches of snow.
Yeah. Woo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it may look like Dallas. It's a beautiful scenes coming out of there. Yeah, here probably not so much. But yeah, like you said, we're really going to see some snow blanketing those areas to our north.
And listen, one comment I'm getting a lot today is we have talked about tomorrow transition zone where it might go over to a cold rain. And that's something we've been talking about a lot this week that could happen. And the thing is, that doesn't mean that we're not going to see anything.
Yeah.
There's going to be some significant impacts tomorrow morning. Now, it won't last all day for a lot of us, but we need to be prepared for that, and that's why you're seeing winter storm warnings all across the state of Alabama. We have winter weather advisories. Let's talk about it here. I want to go into some specifics of what we know First Alert Weather Day, as we first called earlier this week, and for that possibility, that's going to continue later tonight. And it looks like, you look at the radar, we're starting to see some precipitation showing up. But first off, what you see, and yeah, that return shows snow. That's moisture way up. It's not necessarily reaching the ground, but you're going to see a lot of this throughout this evening showing up on the radar, and what that's doing, the atmosphere is moistening up, and it's going to pull the temperature down. Even though we did have readings, we're actually well above freezing right now in a lot of areas, and we warmed up into the 40s today. You'll see a big drop in those temperatures tonight as the moisture moves in, but where the precip's actually reaching the ground, you can see back in here. And again, we saw all that snow in Dallas, but you know what? You look at the radar, you see a lot of green there on the map, and that's because there is a transition line in here, and the radar algorithms is trying to depict where we see the transition zone. So when you look at this overnight tonight and throughout tomorrow, even though the radar may show a little bit of green on there, still going to be possibility that snow that is falling out there. But start times tonight, 11 o'clock this evening to 1 o'clock in the morning. Looks like 1 to 3 a.m. Again, start times for this overnight. And then 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. are our eastern areas. And that's going to start out with a burst of heavy wintry mix. And we're talking about it, sleet, snow, and freezing rain. So as opposed to just snowfall accumulation maps across the state, it's a lot more complex. I mean, we're going to have layers of different precip types. Most likely snow to the north, but mostly a mix for areas like Tuscaloosa, Birmingham, Anniston Point South. And that ice, that sleet, very compact, could cause some issues. Hazardous travel tomorrow morning for the first part of the day. As we get closer to lunchtime, though, road temperatures look to start rising above freezing. We get some rain building in from the southwest. I still think far north and eastern areas that freezing rain could hang on a bit longer in these eastern areas. So we could see some ice glazing on some of the exposed surfaces, power lines, tree limbs. Might see a few random outages, and not just because of the wintry weather. Another component to this system, it's going to become quite windy tomorrow afternoon. We could have some gusts over 30 miles per hour. But with the snow possible, a quick burst for a couple of hours tomorrow morning, it is still possible it could come down in a hurry to the north. We could end up with 1 to 2 inches of snow in a lot of areas, and plan for that. So greatest impacts, high impacts for the first part of the day on Friday. After that, we start to see those impacts more limited to areas a bit further north and east in the afternoon. Still could see some leftover ice early on Saturday. So a lot to talk about, and we're going to break it all down for you here over the next 30 minutes.
Well, thanks, Wes. First responders are also warning us tonight to stay home tomorrow and Saturday if we can. Leaders across Jefferson County have been meeting and going over plans for emergency response. Your reporter, Bria Chapman, is live and on your side, sharing some of their advice.
Hey, Tania. Yes, that's right. So I spoke to leaders with the Fultondale and Birmingham fire departments, and they say they have been preparing all week, getting ready for this winter event, but they say they are concerned about accidents and hypothermia tomorrow. But the best way to avoid all that, as you mentioned, is by staying home and staying inside.
If you're out, you get into a bad situation, then we have to come out. So that causes more problems. So I say don't be a part of the problem, be a part of the solution, and the solution is to stay home.
Lieutenant Katina Williams with the Birmingham Fire Department and Chief Justin McKenzie with Fultondale Fire say it's best to avoid the roadways if conditions get worse tomorrow. They say they've been preparing this week to answer to more emergencies related to the winter event, but they say some of these issues can be avoided.
We're going to come get you, but it'll be less, and we can deal with the real emergencies instead of having to track people down that got out on the roads that shouldn't have got there.
Both departments already have plans in place if roadways become icy on how they'll respond to emergencies in a safe way.
We're going to take our brand new trucks out of service and use some of the older equipment. And then worst case, if ice and snow get real bad, we'll put our SUVs and older equipment in service. Regardless, we're going to respond.
They already know that there are going to be some people that are not going to be able to get in. So the ones that live a greater distance away, a lot of times what they'll do is they'll come in early. We don't have enough personnel. We have ones that have to stay over.
Yeah, now regardless of what happens tomorrow, like they mentioned, if an emergency happens in your home or near you, they are coming to you, but they do warn it may take a little longer than usual depending on how the roadways look, but they say they will get there. Your reporter live tonight in Birmingham, I'm Bria Chapman, WBRC 6 News on your side.
Thanks, Bria. And as we're just one day out from tomorrow's first alert weather day and winter weather event, it's important to remember these things. Number one, be sure to adjust your plans as needed as that forecast continues to change and improve. So be sure you're staying up to date as we continue to talk about the latest model runs. Number two, this leads into how you should have those multiple ways of receiving information and warnings. Make sure to also bring your pets and plants indoors. If you haven't already, secure any outdoor loose objects with those gusty winds in place, and also make sure those pets have plenty of water and a warm place to be. So when exactly could we begin to see these impacts tomorrow? Well, that brings me now to meteorologist Lauren Linehan. And Lauren, you have a breakdown of the time period based on counties and the time period that they could possibly see the greatest impacts. Talk about it.
Yeah, Tania, and it's not one size fits all for everyone tomorrow. We've been talking about how North Alabama and areas at those higher elevations in East Alabama could be seeing more impacts from this system. So get your phone right now, get up to the TV and take a picture of this. So if you don't see your city on here, get creative. Think, okay, which one of these do I live closest to? And that can give you an idea of what kind of impacts you could see. So we'll start likely over in parts of West Alabama around Centerville, Jasper, Clanton, Tuscaloosa. It could be seeing impacts coming in shortly after midnight in the form of some rain. And then you have to see if, okay, could we see that wintry mix falling as well, that potential for freezing rain and sleet. And I think in areas like Centerville, Clanton, Tuscaloosa, we're talking impacts through about mid-morning. And then Jasper could be seeing impacts closer to lunchtime since you're still going to be a little bit farther north of that I-22 corridor. Birmingham, we're looking at a general time frame from 1 a.m. to 1 p.m. And remember, this is not accounting for cold rain. This is also accounting for when you could see that best chance of a wintry mix. And then Aniana, Coleman from 1 a.m. to 1 p.m., 1 a.m. to 4 p.m. in Coleman, all day in Gadsden and Anniston. You're in those areas where you're at those higher elevations and you have that potential to really have that influence from the wedge. And then areas like Alexander City, Sylacauga, 3 a.m. into tomorrow morning. We'll continue to track this on First Alert Weather Extra and talk about what we could see with that winter weather potential coming up after the break. And you can see not just talking about the winter weather, but the devastating wildfires across California. We'll have more in 30 seconds.
Welcome back in, everyone. First Alert meteorologist Tania Michelle. Listen, we have been talking about this winter weather event that's on its way and really just a couple of hours away, right through late tonight and midnight into your early Friday. But not only will we see the chance for winter precipitation, we're also tracking some very gusty winds. And as Wes and the rest of our First Alert weather team have been mentioning, as winds gust up, well, that could bring us to some sporadic power outages. So you really want to make sure you have extra batteries, portable chargers, and extra light sources, maybe heating sources too. Whether you have that generator, just make sure you're being safe with it. And any of those heaters that are battery powered, make sure you're being careful with those as well. But let's talk about those winds. Here's a quick look at winds early Friday morning. This is around 10 a.m. Winds gusting up close to 30 miles per hour for parts of central Alabama. And this is later Friday afternoon, still seeing 27 mile per hour wind gusts there. Jefferson County up in Coleman 30. So very, very windy and breezy conditions. And these winds will continue as we approach really your Saturday afternoon. Winds gusting close to 20 miles per hour for late Saturday afternoon before they begin to die down and calm down for our area. But either way, you want to make sure, yes, you have multiple ways to receive weather information, meaning that weather radio, but also your mobile devices. Just have some extra battery sources for them too, those portable chargers. But what else might you need? What other winter essentials are important? Well, number one, you need to make sure you protect yourself. So that goes with your layers and making sure you're wearing extra layers like scarves, hats, gloves, and even boots, checking them all off. Make sure you're doubled up on those layers if you have to be outside for longer periods of the day. But not only will you want that, here are some other important items. We talked about those mobile devices, but make sure you have chargers and batteries, blankets and sleeping bags. If you have to travel, keep some of that stuff in your car. Flashlights are very important in case of any power outages, first aid kits, non-perishable foods. Keep some of that in your home, but also in your vehicles. And make sure you have that extra prescription medicines in case you take medication. You want to make sure you have more than enough for days, okay? And then last but not least, extra pet food, warm shelters for your animals, baby items like diapers and formula, and car essentials like ropes and also jumper cables. But taking you now to California, where more than 29,000 acres have been burned across Southern California as a result of those devastating wildfires. Nearly 2,000 homes, businesses, and other structures have been destroyed, and the number is expected to increase. There are also major health concerns, with the air quality being deemed a hazardous 6 out of 6 because of all the smoke and ash in the air. At least 5 people are dead from the wildfires tearing through Southern California.
And Tania, even though some progress has been made, scenes of heartbreak now emerging as residents struggle to imagine the scope of the damage. Fox's Suni Sai reports from one of the hardest hit areas, Pacific Palisades.
It looked apocalyptic.
The devastation unprecedented as wildfires continue to burn across Los Angeles. In Pacific Palisades, entire neighborhoods have been reduced to ash.
It is safe to say that the Palisades fire is one of the most destructive natural disasters in the history of Los Angeles.
That fire burning more than 17,000 acres so far and destroying more than 1,000 structures.
It just took a long time to fathom that this could just all disappear like that.
More than 180,000 people have been put under evacuation orders as 5 fires continue to burn across LA. Thousands of firefighters on the ground are working to contain the firestorm. 100-mile-per-hour winds that fueled the flames earlier this week have calmed for now, but are expected to return in the coming days.
The winds will die down a little bit and you think, oh, here's where we can hunker in and get some containment. And then all of a sudden the real gusts come back and it's back and off to the races again.
Those high winds make the fire's path unpredictable. Officials urge residents to be prepared to evacuate at a moment's notice.
When you are asked to evacuate immediately. Do not hesitate.
We're getting our first look at some of the widespread devastation left behind now, and residents are wondering how they will even begin to pick up the pieces.
Los Angeles has true grit. It has resilience, and it will rebuild, and it will rebuild better than ever.
In total, these fires have burned more than 29,000 acres across Los Angeles. In Pacific Palisades, Sunny Sai, Fox News.
Well, don't go anywhere. We're going to continue bringing those updates on tomorrow's First Alert Weather Day, but we're also bringing you the weather extra of what's happening in the atmosphere right now. We'll be right back.
All right, we have a winter storm quickly approaching the state of Alabama. This will start to set in later on tonight. A high impact event to start the day. We're talking about icy travel conditions, freezing rain, sleet, and snow. And for every location, this is just one of those deals here where there's going to be a mixed bag of precipitation. Not every location will see a lot of snow. It's going to be more rain and freezing rain on some bridges and overpasses, and then also some sleet. That's going to continue for the first part of the day tomorrow. By the afternoon, we'll start to see some improvements as those road temperatures go up, but also what we see some warmer air that gets drawn into this system at about 5,000 feet. That's going to cause that changeover. However, to the far north and east, we still could see the possibility of some freezing rain. So we need to watch out. And not only that, gusty winds. So there could be a few random outages, icy situation into early on Saturday. It looks like maybe some patchy residual moisture could freeze over. Now you're starting to see as we go over to the watch and warning map. These are winter storm warnings, winter weather advisories. All of this precip starting to show up, that moisture lifting in. That is not reaching the ground, but later tonight it will start to reach the ground. We'll start to see those snow flurries and some sleet and snow showers. So a long night there of tracking this as it moves into the state. And again, greatest impacts right out the door tomorrow morning. And here it comes. See a lot of green on the map, but I can promise you places like Greenville over to Greenwood, Mississippi, that precip starting to change over. This is not all rain. This is going to be a little bit of sleet and snow, but hey, it's moving in here quickly. You know, we're going to keep a watch on this tonight as it arrives. Of course, if it does get in here a little bit sooner, that means longer period of time for some accumulating wintry precipitation. But as this sets in, we'll see a burst of heavy precipitation, and that's why it won't take long where this does become snow for it to add up quickly. And that will happen in areas to the north. Further south, we'll see accumulations of sleet, of course, more compact, probably not the best snowman making weather. And you go further south, and then it's more freezing rain. Now, far southeastern areas, if you want to see a little bit of snow, your greatest chance is south and west. Probably want to set an alarm for early in the day. But notice by 5 o'clock, even though we see the possibility of this changing over, we're still right at freezing areas to the north and east. So that threat for freezing rain will continue all day for places like Gadsden, Anniston, and those areas there off to the east. So the forecast, of course, some big impacts into the weekend. Most of this moves out early, of course, Saturday. The rest of the weekend, okay. Next chance of rain, and the warmest day we see in the 10-day forecast, 50 degrees, Lauren, by Saturday of next week. You know, past couple of years, it's been like we really haven't had a winter. We're having a winter this year.
It is, you know, Wes, you never know what you're going to get. Alabama is always a wild card when it comes to winter weather. So that's why this forecast has been so complicated. We do want to give you a look at what the overall setup is. Why are we forecasting what we're forecasting? Well, there's an area of low pressure along the Gulf of Mexico. This is taking a look at tomorrow morning, right? Friday morning. So it kind of shows how complicated this forecast is. One reason we are seeing the potential for some wintry precipitation. Hey, it can be cold here all the time, right? And it doesn't snow. We have a saying as meteorologists that sometimes it's too cold to snow because cold air technically doesn't hold as much water vapor as warm air does. But what this area of low pressure is doing along the Gulf of Mexico, it's allowing upper level moisture to move in. And so you've got this increase in moisture. You have tomorrow morning this colder air at the surface. Now this low can lift some warm air farther to the north, though, so that's why we're expecting possibly some sleet and ice accumulations, especially along and north of I-20, but especially areas to our north like Arkansas, up into Tennessee, even parts of Mississippi, you could see some higher snowfall rates. And then what happens as we go into tomorrow afternoon, as this low begins to push a little farther to the east, we begin to see that possibility of a transition to more of a cold rain, whereas that winter weather possibility shifts areas to the north and east like the southern Appalachians, and also even to parts of the mid-south and to the mid-Atlantic. So for us, our main concern as we go into tomorrow is especially during the morning hours, and as Wes was saying, we don't want to totally rule out that tomorrow afternoon, especially in those higher elevations in East Alabama where you have an influence of a wedge coming in from Georgia from the Appalachians, that could lead to a freezing rain risk tomorrow. But, oh, I don't know about y'all, already exhausted. Tania, are we seeing any hope of change beyond the 7-day?
I wish.
Well, it was a nice shot. It was a nice thought, right?
Nice thought. It's definitely going to be cold, but the big question is, could we see more snow in the future? Well, let me walk you through this. As we look at our precipitation outlook, it's two things that delivers us snow, right? You need moisture of some sort, some kind of system moving through, and temperatures at the right condition. But as you look here, January 17th through January 23rd, much of the U.S. still going to be seeing above average rainfall. But could that not be rainfall? Well, that's a possibility. But this is including our area as well, with above average precipitation. And then we move into our temperatures. Same time frame, January 17th through January 23rd, much of the U.S. dealing with below average temperatures. So if we see more conditions below freezing, there could be more rounds throughout our winter season where we get some kind of flurries or some type of winter weather. As we look beyond the 7-day here, our next chance to see some wet weather looks like January 18th, early Saturday morning. This is next weekend, but I don't see any snow with that system. But we might be able to see a few flurries around as we bring in Monday, January the 20th, still several days out. Don't get your hopes up, and it didn't look like it was very much. And then we bring in Wednesday, seeing a few showers, maybe some wintry mix far north Alabama. So that possibility for some more winter weather later into this month still stands. So the big question, could we see snow? Well, right now I'm going to say not yes or no, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with a final check on your forecast. You're watching First Alert Weather Extra. See you in just a bit.
I just texted my buddy Gary Harris down there. I said, well, we're going to wake up to some wintry weather tomorrow morning, but
Should be interesting.
It will be interesting.
Yeah. Well, I always say though about winter weather in Alabama, you know, for some of us we can take a nap and when we wake up it's over.
All right, that's true.
I mean, it's
That'll
not,
probably be me. I'm just kidding.
Well, it's not all day, I promise you that. But listen, be careful in the morning. We have a lot to talk about tonight. Again, updates first at 9.